Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphanlast, aka Skylar Madison, and today we're going to be talking about everything good with sub-Xsheets. Now, I did make a video last week about everything wrong with sub-Xsheets, and the primary reason why I made that video is because although there's documentation on how to use Opentoonz, there's the Opentoonz user manual and the Toonz Harley Quinn manual, these forms of educational material are progressively becoming more and more obsolete because the educational documentation is just not being updated on a regular basis. And being able to search for the answers for variously different questions inside of these manuals are pretty difficult to actually find. So basically I had some questions, and no one was able to answer my questions on Discord through text. I typed it up like 3 or 4 times, and each time no one really could understand me. So I just decided, okay, well, then I'll just make a video about it, and wound up making a feature request. So that video right now, as it stands, I don't want somebody later on down the road knowing nothing about Opentoonz finding that video and thinking, oh my gosh, okay, yeah, Opentoonz sucks or something like that. I don't want any perception like that, because within 5 minutes of me posting that video, I got an answer to my question. Not only that, the feature request that I made is being taken seriously on GitHub. So that video is now private, and since it's private, I'm going to now give you guys a video that's very similar to that video, but in this video, I'm going to answer the question that I was looking for. So let's go ahead and get into this, okay? So let's go ahead and create a raster level, and just create a horizon, okay? And with this horizon level, let's just go ahead and expose it for 50 frames. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create another raster level, and let's just go ahead and animate a bird. Okay, let's expose this for 50 frames, and since I have my Xsheet set to animation sheet, I can just go ahead and animate this bird straight up, just real quickly, without any difficulty. Just frame by frame really quickly. Okay, so that's 10 frames of the bird just flipping its wings up and down, okay? Not a very good animation, but here. So from frames 1 through 10, you can see that, you know, there are numeric frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On frames 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way over to frame 50, we just get a frame with a line going right through it, right? Okay, so we've already covered this multiple times on my channel, but just to reiterate so that everyone understands. So this means that on frame 10 and onwards, frame 10 is just exposed for all of those extra frames. So basically what we see when we play the animation is the bird flaps its wings once, and then it just freezes in place. Okay, because frame 10 is exposed for the remainder of the animation. So if we were to click and drag and delete all of these frames, that's just frame 10 exposed over and over again, and then select frames 1 and 10 on the level strip and click and drag them, we can actually get numeric frames repeating over and over again, so that we get a loop going on. And so when we play the animation, the bird just continually just keeps flapping its wings throughout the entire animation, rather than having it pause in place. So let's go ahead and do what we did in the previous video. Let's go ahead and create a stick figure man. And so let's go ahead and create that stick figure man on his own level and all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and expose him for 50 frames. And let's go ahead and select frame 1 and click on the key to create a keyframe down here, and use the animate tool, set it to all, and move it on over. Oops, let's select frame 50 and move him on over to the other side of the screen. So when we play the animation, he just kind of slides across the screen. Let's go ahead and give him a top hat, okay? So let's create another level, okay? And let's call this level man, and then let's go ahead and call this hat, okay? And let's draw the hat. So we have a top hat. Now when we expose this top hat level all the way to 50 frames, and then we start kind of going through frame by frame. We can see that the hat isn't following the stick figure man. So let's go into animation tab and let's find hat and man levels, okay, and stage schematic. So we're on the stage schematic, so we plug the hat into the man, and so we go into the basics tab and we can see that the hat is now following him. Now we might want to have this on its own sub X sheet. Okay, so let's go ahead and select hat and man and collapse it into a sub X sheet. Now a sub X sheet is represented with a purple column. Okay, and right now it's been labeled column 2. So let's go ahead and just call this stick man. Okay, and let's go ahead and enter into this sub X sheet. So we initially, this is what it might look like. Let's just flip through it. You might just see the man, the stick figure man, just sliding across the screen. If you just see that and you don't see the background or the bird in the background, then what you need to do is you need to click on this button, toggle edit in place, okay? And now you can actually see your sub X sheet in context with everything else when you're inside of the sub X sheet. So that's that. So let's go ahead and exit out of the sub X sheet. Now let's suppose that you delete frames 26 through 50, okay? So we play the animation outside of the sub X sheet, and what we see is a stick figure man kind of slide halfway across the screen and then just disappear for the remainder of the animation. Now let's go ahead and go into the sub X sheet and see what this looks like. We see the stick figure man slide all the way across the screen, but on frame 26 what happens is he just is alone. The horizon and the bird disappear on frame 26. But on frame 25, it's still there. Okay, so let's exit out of the sub X sheet. Now let's go ahead and click frame 25 on the sub X sheet and expose it to frame 50. So when we play the animation outside of the sub X sheet and we play it, what we see is the stick figure man slide to halfway across the screen, halfway through the animation, and then freeze in place. This is different from how it looked when there were no additional frames. So you might come to the conclusion that you need to change something inside of the sub X sheet to get him to slide all the way through. But we go into the sub X sheet, and then on frame 25 we still see the background and the bird. But we go on to frame 27. I'm sorry, we go on to on frame 25 we still see the bird and the background, but on frame 26 it still disappears. So what we need is numeric frames on frame 26 through frame 50. So let's go ahead and delete this exposed level, okay, because all it's doing is exposing frame 25 inside the sub X sheet over and over and over again. So it's just a pause, it's a hold, is what we've just created. Let's go ahead and delete that. Now this is how you get numeric frames into a sub X sheet. You select the last 2 frames on the sub X sheet. The last 2 frames on the sub X sheet. And then you go ahead and click and drag, and then you have numeric frames. You select the last one and then click and drag, and you wind up exposing a frame. Okay? Last 2 frames, and then clicking and dragging, you wind up getting numeric frames. Clicking on the last frame and dragging winds up creating exposed frames. Alright, so just distinguishing the difference between the two. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at this. So inside of the sub X sheet, we only have 50 frames. Okay, so let's exit out of the sub X sheet real quick. Let's click on the sub X sheet at frame 50, and let's go ahead and expose this to frame 100. Alright, okay, so we now have, oops. And let's go ahead and get some numeric frames all the way over to frame 100. Okay, so what you can see is from frame 51 to frame 100, we get frames with red numbers on them, which means that it's trying to display frames that don't exist. So let's go into the sub X sheet. Okay, now it's really easy to create frames that don't exist inside of a sub Xsheet. Let's go ahead and click and drag this keyframe all the way to frame 100. Let's go ahead and click on frame 50 on both columns and expose them all the way to frame 100 and exit out of the sub Xsheet. You can now see from frame 100 to frame 51 we now have normal numeric frames. Okay, they're no longer red because they now exist. Now if we do this exact same thing with a normal level, okay, if we go ahead and click and drag frame 1 down here on frame 51 and select the last two levels and then click and drag and click and drag on the last two frames and click and drag, we can get a repeating cycle from frame 1 through 10, okay? But if you select frame 9 and 10 and click and drag, what you'll get is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way to infinity if you want, of frames that don't exist inside of the level strip. There is no level 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 inside of the level strip. So we would have to create those in order for these levels to come into existence. Okay, so there is some differences between how a sub Xsheet behaves and how a regular level behaves. Now, the feature request that I was requesting is that when I select a sub Xsheet, the level strip is pointless. It does nothing. It has empty thumbnails that have nothing. Now, the feature request that I was requesting was that the level strip, it would be really nice to be able to have just numbers on each thumbnail on the level strip whenever you have a sub Xsheet selected. I don't see any reason why the level strip should behave or look anything like how it does with a regular level selected. You don't need to see the thumbnails of the artwork for each one of the images on the level strip for a sub Xsheet, because a sub Xsheet just simply behaves differently. So those are my thoughts and such like that. That's what the last video was all about, and that's why it's set to private on my account right now. And so this video I created primarily to let you guys know how to create numeric frames on a sub Xsheet. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, please like, share, and subscribe anyways. And if you guys would like to take a look at any of my other videos, feel free to click on any of them on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.